We'll begin. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, or evening. Um, Thank you for coming out today. Today's Parent University is going to be preparing your scholar for finals. My name is Mr. Kopitar. I am the seventh grade history teacher and seventh grade lead. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves as well.
Good evening. I'm Ms. Lubin. I am the K through 2 music teacher.
Hello, everyone, parents, families. I'm Mr. Marambo, and I am the fifth grade science teacher.
And also on the call, we have Miss Barone, who is the ninth grade Spanish teacher.
I was on mute.
It happens.
Buenas noches, yo soy la profesora de español de noveno grado. Thank you.
All right, so today we're going to go over just some helpful hints for preparing your scholars for final exams. Finals week is not next week, it is the week after that. And most of them, all classes will be hosting final exams. So we're going to go over some helpful hints that not only would help your scholar this year with final exams, but also going forward in the future. Some of these could be implemented much earlier than where we're at now, just to give them the best chance to be successful at that endeavor. Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Buenas noches nuevamente. Le damos las gracias por estar aquí. Sabemos que en 2 semanas se acercan los exámenes finales y es un momento en que los estudiantes y los padres de familia están un poco estresados porque sabemos que tal vez para algunos el examen final depende gran parte de la nota y el resultado final, y es por eso que hemos preparado esta conferencia en la noche de hoy.
We do ask that if you do have any questions, either put them in the chat or hold them off to the end. We did allow time to answer any questions or concerns that you might have, and your question might be answered throughout the presentation as well. So.
Si tienen alguna pregunta, las pueden escribir en el chat, o si no, las podemos dejar para el final de la sesión y todos podremos compartir y ayudarle con la respuesta.
So, most middle school subjects, in addition to nearly every high school course, require that students complete a final exam. In fact, most high schools today actually require that teachers provide students with a final exam and even designate a certain percentage of that course grade is influenced by the final exam score. As a result, this trend, high school students today face intense pressure around the end of each term. Similarly, as final exams are gradually more common in middle school classes, these adolescents also face mounting pressures around exam time. Oftentimes, as the final exam strongly impacts a student's overall course grade, their final exam can even determine whether or not a struggling student passes or fails their class. To give you an idea of how College Achieve does this, a midterm and a final exam is the equivalent to half a marking period grade. So both the midterm and the final come together to be considered its own mark period grade, so they are worth a lot.
La mayoría de las escuelas ahora en la educación intermedia o la middle school y en la high school están necesitando que los estudiantes pasen un examen para casi todas las áreas. En especial en high school hay algunos exámenes que determinan su paso a la universidad, y por eso la importancia de que los estudiantes tengan esta preparación para los exámenes. Sabemos que muchas veces el examen final depende gran porcentaje de la nota final, y esto le puede provocar a los estudiantes un estrés, una montaña rusa de estrés cuando se acercan estos días, porque desafortunadamente para algunos su el paso para el siguiente año o el paso de la materia podría depender de este examen final. Les ponemos un ejemplo. En nuestra escuela, en College of Chiefs, tanto el examen intermedio como el examen final, los dos tienen un 50% de un periodo, lo que quiere decir que los dos juntos hacen el porcentaje de un marking period, de un periodo en total. De aquí la importancia de poder pasar estos exámenes.
So one of the more important aspects, especially now that we are virtually learning, what we have been, is to create a distraction-free study zone. Final exam time is when the rubber meets the road. Study times needs to be efficient, productive, and distraction-free. Set up a space that is quiet and conducive to studying. If your scholar has been studying in the bedrooms, now may be a good time to have them study at the desk or in a different part of the house. You want to find a place that is distraction-free, that doesn't have music or maybe siblings that would be bothering them or pets, somewhere where they could focus and actually concentrate on the task at hand.
Crear una zona, aquí empezamos a dar algunos de los tips para poder obtener un mejor resultado. Y uno de los más importantes es crear una zona libre de distracción. ¿Qué queremos decir? Ustedes saben la importancia, como hay un dicho que los exámenes son el caucho que hacen que la rueda esté andando. Pues para eso, para prepararnos para estos exámenes, es importante que nuestro hijo le ubiquemos o le seleccionemos un espacio libre de cualquier distracción. Ustedes saben que ahora que hemos trabajado en la virtualidad, ha sido un tiempo muy difícil y que los muchachos, si miramos el rendimiento total, tal vez no es el mismo porque existen muchas distracciones a su alrededor, no solamente en el examen, sino a nivel general de cuando están atendiendo clases. ¿Qué debemos hacer? Buscar un espacio donde no haya tanto ruido. Por ejemplo, si vamos a escoger el cuarto, la habitación, evitemos que tengan música cerca o si hay hermanos pequeños en la casa que no estén en ese momento para que no lo distraigan. Esta es una de las recomendaciones. Un espacio libre por algún momento de cualquier distractor.
Establish healthy study habits. Children also need a quiet, organized space for studying. That can be a desk or even a spot in a dining room table, which you can help set up by sharpening pencils and putting them in a cup or providing other supplies. Organization is essential, and it's a skill that they will take with them as they grow. You can make the night before the test a little more special, like you would the night before your child had a big sporting event. Ask your child what meal they would want to eat, for example. It's okay to talk about the test, but avoid focusing on it so much that you build anxiety. Test days are special, but not such a huge deal if your child is reviewing concepts on a regular basis. The more they are ready, but also relaxed when they walk into school, the better they will do, says Lucia Sonovoy, Director of Academics for Kaplan Kids.
Otro aspecto importante es establecer hábitos saludables. ¿Qué debemos decir con esto? Ya sabemos que el niño necesita un espacio o el estudiante necesita un espacio tranquilo, pero aparte de esto tiene que ser un espacio organizado para estudiar. Por ejemplo, si vamos a utilizar el escritorio, o en la mesa del comedor, lo que debemos hacer es tener al alcance de los niños los materiales necesarios que le van a ayudar a hacer más fácil estudiar o tomar notas. Este espacio es esencial organizar este espacio teniendo, por ejemplo, sus lápices, sus sacapuntas, borradores, todo lo que necesiten para que ellos eviten moverse constantemente y así distraerse. Esto es importante. Otra cosa importante para hacer es que como estamos creando un hábito saludable, así como por ejemplo cuando nuestro hijo tiene un partido de fútbol y la noche anterior tenemos el entusiasmo porque ellos van a participar en ese juego. Hagamos lo mismo el día anterior al examen. Vamos a preguntarle, ¿cuál es tu comida favorita? Y ese día complacerlo, hacerle la comida favorito para tratar de generar menos ansiedad en el muchacho. Y si es posible, esa noche no tratar de agobiarlos hablando solamente del examen. Cuando se esté en esa cena que estamos compartiendo, evite hablar del examen y darle la tranquilidad para poder que ellos lleguen al día siguiente relajados. Este es uno de los consejos que nos da Lucía Sinaboli, quien es la directora de la Academia Kaplan Kids.
Another important practice in preparing your scholar for their final exams is encouraging consistency. What's the use of having a habit if it's not in a routine? You see, homework and studying should be a regular scheduled activity. Test taking is a skill. It's a skill, and with all skills, it requires practice. Having a schedule specifically in addition to homework and other required school assignments is very helpful in encouraging that consistency and making sure they have that routine every single day. So for example, you can schedule 30 minutes for a certain subject after the homework, and that will help them better in the long run to prepare them for that final. Here's a quote that summarizes that at the bottom. See, children need to practice good studying skills so they become second nature. Parents can help with reading books, articles, reviewing vocabulary, or even math facts, whatever they are learning at that time. Making sure that it's routine is the key when it comes to preparing them for that final.
Fomentar la consistencia. ¿Qué queremos decir cuando hablamos de fomentar la consistencia? Que no enseñemos a nuestros hijos que no estudien solamente para el examen o los días antes del examen. Siempre y todos los días vamos a hacer programar regularmente horas solamente para estudio. Si es cierto que tenemos un espacio para que ellos le dediquen después de la clase para hacer tareas y todos los deberes que tienen en la escuela, pues si generalmente utilizan 2 horas para hacer los deberes o para completar todo eso, todos los días saquemos 30 minutos para que ellos hagan un repaso de lo que vieron durante el día y puedan reforzar los conocimientos. De esa forma, cuando van a tener el examen final, no tienen todo acumulado porque han venido repasando constantemente y entonces eso les va a permitir que tengan un desempeño más efectivo cuando ellos tienen una consistencia en el estudio, no dejarlo todo para el final. Y como padres también, por ejemplo, si estamos ayudando en el área de inglés, donde vamos a necesitar lecturas que sabemos que se van reforzando es con el día a día de estudio, entonces siempre vamos a buscarle libros, vamos a ayudarlos con libros para que tengan momentos de lectura, repasar libros, buscar artículos de periódicos para que ellos vayan ampliando su vocabulario. Esto es uno de los consejos que nos dice Maxine Trasanovi, quien es maestra de ESOL en la escuela primaria de Longfellow en Colombia.
Next, let's make studying rewarding. While final exams are a serious matter, you can make the process fun and rewarding for your children. After they have studied a few hours, you can perhaps treat them to a break at the local ice cream shop Again, this does not need to be expensive. This does not need to be something that will, be unhealthy for them. Even as much as going for a walk with them or giving them a break or let them like watch a YouTube video or something a little bit. Give them a reward, let them feel like they accomplished what they need to accomplish, and they'll be more likely to do it again next time.
Hacer que estudiar sea gratificante. ¿Cómo logramos esto? Una de las cosas que podemos hacer es prometerle o darle premios a nuestro hijo, pero no tiene que ser premio costoso. No es que le vamos a decir, si tú estudias o si haces esto, te vamos a comprar un Xbox, un nuevo teléfono. No, cosas sencillas, como por ejemplo decir, bueno, cuando termines de estudiar, vamos a ir al parque. Si son niños pequeños, lo puedes llevar a montar bicicleta, a hacer cualquier actividad al aire libre, o simplemente decirle, después de que termine, vamos a ir a comprar un helado o a ver por 30 minutos tu programa favorito, o utilizar el teléfono por algunos momentos y jugar. Darle unas pequeñas premios, pero sin que esto más adelante se vuelva en un chantaje. Ese es algo muy importante.
Personalized study tactics. As you determine how the teacher assesses her students, keep in mind that your child has different strengths, even within test taking. Some students have a hard time with essay questions. Some have a hard time with multiple choice. Simpkins says, talk to the teacher to help recognize your child's pitfalls and review past tests to determine areas that need support. Also, keep in mind your child's needs when scheduling study sessions. If your child feels overwhelmed, small bits of time, 10 minutes, and work up to longer periods of time. Studying can be done in different ways.
Personalice las tácticas de estudio. Personalizar las tácticas de estudio es tener en cuenta que todos somos diferentes y aprendemos diferente. A medida que la maestra va evaluando a su estudiante, la maestra puede reconocer cuáles son las clases de preguntas que el estudiante más entiende para poder ayudarlo. Entonces, algo muy importante es que entre maestro y los padres reconozcamos cuáles son las preguntas o las que se les dificultan más a nuestros estudiantes, para así poderlos ayudar y hacer tener más ejercicios en este tipo de preguntas, para que ellos puedan fortaleciendo esta parte en las áreas que necesitan. También tenga en cuenta que su hijo debe tener secciones de estudio. Si ya se siente muy agotado, muy cansado, haga un descanso por algunos 10 minutos y después retome nuevamente con un periodo de estudio un poco más largo. Pero siempre trate de reconocer cuando ya hay agotamiento en el niño y parar. Esto nos dice Simpson que esto va a determinar la efectividad, porque cuando fortalecemos esto, estamos reconociendo que cada uno aprende diferente.
I'm sure most of you know, but one of the most important practices you can do to prepare your scholar for their finals, something they can do themselves, is communicating with the teacher. Communicating with the teacher, it's absolutely important to make sure they know what the final exam is about. It's to help them identify the material your scholar must review to prepare for that final. It's also a great opportunity, like we mentioned before, to understand what your scholar must focus on, because it's their teacher after all. They know what your scholar needs to focus on because they've been with your scholar in that subject the entire year. Now, this quote best summarizes it, and it reads, as the teacher who works with your child, or ask the teacher, who works with your child, what is the best way to help them. They spend a great deal of time with each student and will have ideas about helping them, pushing them to that next level to be successful for that final exam.
Comunícate con el profesor. ¿Quién puede conocer más a un estudiante en la materia que el profesor? Pues por eso es que te estamos dando este consejo. El profesor ha estado a lo largo del año en esa área con el estudiante. Él sabe cuáles son las fortalezas y las debilidades del estudiante. Es importante que como padre te acerques a tu profesor y le preguntes en qué debes reforzar más a tu hijo. ¿Cuáles son los temas, los tópicos que se le hacen más difícil al estudiante aprender? ¿En cuál tiene más dificultades? Cuando tú tienes esta comunicación abierta con el profesor, trabajando juntos pueden mejorar este rendimiento y estaríamos no desgastando al estudiante al momento de estudiar, porque si ya él tiene un tema que le ha sido fácil, pues no lo desgastemos en el mismo. Vamos a prestarle atención mejor a aquellos temas que él necesita refuerzo. Y por eso lo más importante es siempre tener una comunicación estable con tu hijo, porque es el profesor quien sabe cómo va en la materia.
Next, help them learn from failure. A quote from one of my favorite historical figures, Winston Churchill. He said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." If your child fails an exam, be a good listener. Let them share how they feel. Continue to encourage them to work hard and to do their best. Lastly, tell them that you love them. When a child or scholar tries their best and isn't successful at it, it's not the end of the world. It happens. They need to learn from it. A wise man once said, "The greatest teacher failure is." We are what they go beyond, whether it be parents, teachers, anyone. We are what they grow beyond, and that is all of our burden.
Ayúdanos a aprender a partir de las fallas. Como humanos, todos tenemos nuestros errores y cometemos errores constantemente. ¿Qué vamos a hacer en esta parte? Enseñarle a nuestros hijos que también cometiendo errores se puede aprender y que esto no puede significar el final o el final del mundo, que todo no está acabado, que se puede seguir intentando y se puede a partir de las fallas, aprender a tener un mejor resultado. No centrarnos tanto en que se perdió o se falló, sino en qué fallé y cómo lo debo mejorar. Aquí en esta parte vamos a citar a Winston Churchill, quien dijo que el éxito no es definitivo, el fracaso no es fatal, es el coraje para continuar lo que cuenta. Si su hijo no aprueba el examen, sea buen oyente. Permítale compartir cómo se siente. Continúe alentándolo para trabajar duro y hacer lo mejor que pueda. Y por último, siempre dígale que lo quiere y que sí se puede.
Focus on confidence. Never underestimate the power of confidence, which is the ultimate goal above a good test score. You want your child to walk into school confident every day. Be the supportive voice. Offer encouragement as they work on their homework and tests. Make yourself available to questions. You can instill confidence by giving them space and time to do their work, showing them that their study time is important and they have a say in it. A big reason students experience test anxiety is fear of the unknown. But if you emphasize how well your child knows the concepts to be covered on the test, he or she should feel more ready.
Concentrarse en la confianza. Nunca subestimes el poder de la confianza. Enséñale a tu hijo que el objetivo final, por encima de la puntuación que tenga en el examen, es la confianza que tenga en sí mismo. Siempre trata y refuerza en tu hijo que entre a la escuela con la confianza de que va a hacer un buen trabajo. Esto no lo dices si no voy. Sé esa voz de apoyo que tu hijo necesita. Dale mucho aliento y siempre está diciéndole, tú si puedes, vas a hacer un buen trabajo, tú eres muy inteligente. Dale voz de aliento que le permita sentirse confiado y así él podrá responder mejor. Cuando le influyes confianza, siempre se le va a demostrar con el tiempo lo importante que ha sido no solamente para el examen, sino también para la vida. Una de las principales razones por la cual los estudiantes experimentan ansiedad ante los exámenes es porque no saben qué es lo que se les va a enfrentar, como por ejemplo ahorita antes de empezar el meeting. Todos estaban y una de ustedes comentó, ay, ahora sé cómo se sienten los estudiantes. Bueno, así imagínense, si nos sentimos y sabemos que no nos van a hacer un test y estábamos un poco como nerviosos o no sabía qué vamos a experimentar, entonces es esta parte. Vamos a enfatizar en la confianza para que ellos pierdan el miedo a lo desconocido.
Now, one last practice to help prepare your scholar for their final exams is being proactive in their studying. You see, your attitude about their finals is your scholar's attitude about their finals. Scholars are like sponges, especially when it comes to their motivation and their confidence for these big exams. Provide opportunities outside their schedule to review for their finals. It's important because it shows that you also care about their final exams. Opportunities like this can include pop quizzes over the dinner table or conversations related to some of the lessons in that upcoming final. Show them that you mean business is the message here. Be involved and do model that helpful studying behaviors to your scholar.
Sea proactivo en su estudio y enseñarle a ser proactivo. ¿Qué significa esto? Insistimos en la confianza, enseñarle a estar confiado y a no sentir miedo por lo que les viene. Y esto, ¿cómo se lo vamos a demostrar? Si nosotros le demostramos a ellos que confiamos en él. Si nosotros estamos nerviosos y estamos preocupados porque, ay, yo no creo que pase, y le demostramos ese miedo, ellos van a mostrar esa misma actitud. La actitud que nosotros le mostremos a ellos es la misma que se va a reflejar el día del test en el trabajo. Vamos siempre a estar pensando y organizando en los finales. Siempre vamos a incluir en conversaciones sorpresas relacionadas al examen, sin que ellos noten, sin que sientan la presión de que estamos hablando o que estamos un poco preocupados por el examen. Vamos a ponerlos en conversación, pero no de una manera drástica y estresante, sino como cualquier conversación amena que tengamos con ellos. Siempre demuéstrele que habla en serio, en cuanto confía en él, y así él podrá modelar su comportamiento.
We will now be showing a short video just on 5 tips on how to study for a final exam. But before we do that, I do want to give just a real world example. Many years ago, when I was studying with my mom for a history exam on geography, I couldn't remember the capitals of a bunch of states. So my mom came up with a saying to help me remember Augusta, Maine, Augusta being the capital of the state of Maine. And she told me a gust of wind blew down Main Street. And even to this day, 87 years later, I still remember that a gust of wind blew down Main Street means Augusta is the capital of Maine. So even if you come up with like silly sayings like that, they will stay with your scholars going forward. I'm going to show the video, and then after the video, we'll open it up to any questions, concerns, comments that any of you might have that we could try to address for you.
Hello.
Hey guys, my name is Jamie and I'm a first year emergency medicine resident. Today I want to talk about a pretty common question in my channel, and that is how to study effectively for exams. And with the exam season right around the corner, I think now is a great time to talk about it. And without further ado, let's jump right in. My tip number one is to stop procrastinating and have a study plan. I know that sounds really obvious, but it's also one of the biggest pitfalls of studying for an exam. The last thing you want to do is wait until the last minute to study for exams. Waiting until the last minute can get stressful, and most of the times it can result in a grade that's not ideal. The best way to stop procrastination is by prioritizing and having a study plan. If you haven't already, I suggest creating a schedule of when your exams are going to be. One of the ways I approach making a study plan is by actually quantifying the materials you have to know for an exam. So to make a simple study plan, I like to quantify what I need to know and then divide it evenly by the number of days I have to study. I then add a comprehensive review day or a day of practice questions to really make sure I know my stuff. And then I take the exam the next day. This is a basic skeleton I use to study for all my exams in medical school, as well as big exams like USMLE Step 1 and 2. For the most part, what you're going to study for first is going to be dictated by which exams you have first. But sometimes exams aren't spaced out evenly, so be sure to prioritize ones that are harder to study for. So for example, if you find chemistry challenging, then it makes sense to prioritize it over a subject that you don't find as challenging. Once you have a plan on when to study, my second tip is find an area where you can study. People have different preferences when it comes to study locations. Some people like to study in a quiet library or at home, while others like to study in a cafe with some background noise. In both scenarios, you want to find an area where distractions are minimal. So that means if you're easily distracted at home, then maybe you should consider studying in the library. And alternatively, if you're easily distracted by people, then it will be better to study at home. A lot of people have told me that they find Study With Me videos to be really helpful when they're studying. If you haven't tried them, you can check out some of mine at my Strive Studies channel. My third tip is to change your study style for different subjects. Some classes require a lot of memorization, while other classes require a lot of application. So for example, classes like anatomy and pharmacology require a lot of memorization, while a class like general chemistry and math require a lot of application. So for classes that require memorization, I've made a video in the past about how to best memorize, and I'll link that video up here. And stay tuned because I'm looking to update that video in the future. For application-heavy classes like chemistry or calculus, the best way to improve your grade is to keep doing practice questions, since memorization can only get you so far. My fourth tip is to study in groups and avoid stressful people. One of my fondest memories in medical school is studying in groups. It was like a security blanket because we were able to compare notes, help each other with concepts, problems from practice questions, and things like that. The key to having a productive group is making sure that everyone is on the same page. And with that said, there are some people that you may want to avoid. If you're studying with someone that you're close friends with, after a while it may be hard to stay on track because you may end up distracting each other. So the best way to go about this is going back up to my first tip, which is having a plan. Schedule when to meet up and what topics to cover. And once you're done with that, you can either go back to studying separately or move on to other classes to cover. I personally like to avoid people who stress me out, especially during exams. And this might mean having some quiet time to yourself before exams instead of joining in on the conversation about what you know or don't know, what you think is going to be on the exam. I think anxiety can definitely play a big role in how people do on exams, so it's best to avoid people who stress you out and stay as calm as possible before taking your exam. Finally, my last tip is to make sure to get enough rest. Sometimes all-nighters can seem like it's appealing, but again, going back to my first tip, if you're planning and prioritizing, there's really no need for all-nighters. Sleeping should be a priority. Several studies have shown that sleep is required for consolidation of memory, and without it, it's harder to absorb and recall information. I've talked about the importance of sleep in a previous video, which I will link up here. But really quickly, the lack of sleep comes with a lot of negative consequences in learning, like decrease in attention span, memory loss, and the ability to concentrate. So please make sure to take care of yourselves and get enough sleep. So that's all the tips I have today on how to best study for exams. And before I close today's video, I'd like to thank Brilliant for supporting today's video.
So that's the end of our presentation. We are now going to open up to questions. You can ask a question to either a specific teacher or just a general, or even if your scholars are with you, if they have a question, feel free to bring them in. We want them to be as much a part of this as the teacher and the parent is on this as well.
Es el momento de la pregunta. Si tienen alguna pregunta, la pueden hacer. También si está su hijo o su hija cerca y ellos están escuchando y tienen alguna pregunta para alguno de nosotros o en general para el auditorio, este es el momento y pues las pueden hacer para responderlas.
Yes, feel free.
Yeah. So about Winston Churchill, the what you mentioned about him, perseverance, right? Trying and trying. There is another more actual example of that. It's a guy that made videos for 1,000 days for 1 minute. He posted every single day 1 minute video, and he committed to it. Even the day that he was sick, he did it. Right now, he's living in Singapore. He has many businesses about teaching other people to make videos. And one of his videos is about that perseverance. You know, like don't give up, even when you feel down. Keep going with what you have to do, and you'll achieve, you know, your final goal. And another thing, there is about the techniques about studying. There is this web YouTuber that is, her name is Isadora Vera. She's 16, 17 years old, and she studies in France right now. And she speaks English, French, and Spanish. And she's living on her own in France. She's originally from Chile, and she posts about techniques of how to study. And she's a young girl, and she touches more bases with the kids. And one technique that she uses is something that's called Pomodoro technique. It's something that you break down your full amount of study time into smaller portions. Like say that you sit down and you study for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then you take a break for 5, and then you go back to it. But you have to have like a clean space so there is no distractions. So you have like a set space for that one purpose only. It helps a lot, though it's very hard for kids sometimes to achieve that, right? Because when they're online, everything is there. Everything, their games, their videos, their chats, everything is there. So it's very easy for them to distract themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even though there are a lot of techniques, that there is also a lot of distractions that like get on the way.
Yes,
And one last thing, the sleep is good, but also food. They need to go full belly so they don't have that other distraction. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I actually completely agree with that. They and even to the point that you just made of like, people relating to the younger crowds. Like that quote I put up of Winston Churchill. I love it. You might love it. The kids probably not so much because he's some old guy who's been dead since the 70s. But if you switch out Winston Churchill and put like Billie Eilish there, it might hit home a lot more. So definitely, if you could find people who show studying tips who relate to your scholars more, all the better. Ms. Ford, I believe you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know if this is more of a comment as opposed to a question, but I know that one of the slides we're talking about giving the scholars, like a distraction-free study place. And so with Drew, Drew is my daughter. With her being just young, at that age where everything distracts her, if you drop a pen on the floor, she's distracted. So I think that my challenges come in there is that I don't know how to unless. And then other siblings. So any little thing at that time will distract her. So I'm just having difficulty with that. And then I know that with what we're given for the study guide for the kids, it's not that it's like a lot, but it's a lot. So, and it's different subjects for the little kids, for the kindergartners. So I guess I'm just at a place where I'm trying to figure out how to keep her attention there, because after, like, even with the spelling words, like after going over maybe 2 or 3 words, she's like completely in another zone, and then she's tired, and I don't know how to study for like all the subjects in time with, with enough time to actually be able to go through everything. So then, like Miss Lubin, there's music, then there's the reading, there's the spelling, there's even science and history, and I only get like her attention span a night, maybe 20 minutes. I don't know how to regain any more attention than that. So I think my fear is just trying to go over all the subjects with her at being like, so young. So I don't know if you guys have.
I do have a reply to your concern. I used, when I was growing up, studying for me, I couldn't study for long periods of time. Even as an adult, long periods of time of studying doesn't work for me. I work with small amounts of study. So I'll probably do a little bit of something per day. Maybe I'll do like 10 minutes of this for a child like Drew, who's like 6 years old. Right? 10-minute intervals of a subject a day is best. So maybe you want to pick like 2 or 3 things you want to study, maybe science or reading and music, and you will pick something, just make it very short so that she doesn't feel like her time is being overwhelmed and that she's not distracted. Also, just to add on to what our last parent was saying before, it's about, you have to be intentional about your study time. It has to be intentional. The time, the place, especially with Drew, being so young, the room has to be quiet. It probably just has to be her and you in there. There can't be any outside noise, TV, music. All of that is going to distract her. So finding a quiet space where it's just you and her, and just maybe taking 15 minutes to go over something that's very short. It doesn't have to be long. Every night, I know it's a lot because it's a lot of subjects, but every night try to do something very short with her, covering different parts of the subject. As we saw in the video, she had a day for specific sections or specific subjects that she would study for. You have to plan for that ahead of time so that there's success with the outcome. If you kind of understand what I'm saying there. Do you have any further questions?
No, that was good. That was really helpful. So yeah, I definitely try to do it. I definitely get it. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try to do just Drew and I in like a quiet room. It just usually happens pretty late at night with the cooking and trying to clean up after the kids, and so I need to make sure she gets her rest too. So I guess it's just feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, and redirect her. If she gets distracted easily, which will happen, redirect her,
Right.
And then remind her to stay focused. Like, stay focused. What are we talking about? We'll get some leading questions to bring her right back into what you're studying at that moment.
Right. Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There were a few questions dropped into the chat. So I'll just read them out real quick, just so in case anyone else has the same questions. So when it comes to the schedule for finals, we actually received it today. However, it's not been fully finalized. They're working out some of the bugs, but it will be the week of the 14th. So not next week, but the week after that. And basically, it's going to look like 2 exams a day. Over the course of about 3 days, which will be the 6 periods that scholars have for academic classes. Another question was if some of the scholars who are virtual will be coming into the building to take the finals. We haven't received any word on that yet. I don't believe so, because we will still also have the hybrid scholars in there. And at least for 7th grade, we have about 75 students who are virtual. So it would be difficult bringing in 75 students who have not been in the school and don't know the rules and regulations of the COVID procedures in school, to have them all come in at the same time over the course of these days with the scholars who have been here. But we will finalize that. We will find out, and we will post it on Dojo, and I'll send out to respective leads of each team to inform you as well once I get an answer on that. Are there any other questions? Anyone want to praise us on how wonderful we did?
Thank you for all the tips.
I
Thank
was
you.
just about to say that. I was just about to say that. Seriously, it's amazing how much interest and effort all of you put. Ms. Luana, I've seen you in Jordy's and Hennessy's class. I help other kids with their homeworks, so that's why I've seen you. And I'm learning the ti-ti-ta. I'm learning those things now. But it's amazing how much effort. And Mr. Kopitar, with the videos that you put up for them to read, it opens up Marcella's interest in looking up more other stuff. Those oversimplified videos, she loves them. I have my own history videos that maybe they weren't so appropriate, but they were very funny and they caught up the drunk history ones. But they're very funny. They're educational still. But you guys find amazing ways to get them engaged and to keep them going. It's just very nice of you. All of you. I've seen every class, every grade, and I don't know how you guys do it, but you guys are amazing. Thank you for everything.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. We look forward to not only seeing what the scholars get on these upcoming finals, but future down the lines. When we eventually receive your scholars if they're younger, we'll hopefully see some of these things put into it, and we wish for the success for not just your scholars, but you as well. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.